Hello again everyone, Boxsalesman here with my updated endgame Torment 6 I guess, Witch Doctor. It's a pet build. So I've been testing out like all possible combinations, using Rhen'ho Flare, Star Metal Kukri, using the Zunimasa set, Tall Man's Finger, Stone of Jordan, Ring of Royal Grandeur, like I've been testing everything out. And now I finally came to a conclusion after like quite a while of no-lifing pet builds. Like, this is the build that I like the most now. That's for solo specific, I always play solo, but I feel like it's amazing in parties anyway. So let's first get into the skills, then I'll show you a quick demonstration, and then I'll talk about Paragon points and gearing. Okay, so on the primary we have Plague of Toads with Adling Toads. This is because we use a specific weapon, you'll see that in the gearing. If you do not have the weapon, you would use Rain of Toads instead. On the right click, Piranhas with Piranado. We lack AoE damage, and this is a great way to bunch everything up, so our Zombie Dog can AoE it, or Gargantuan can AoE it, and even the Adling Toads can hit it easier. Bunching stuff up also triggers area damage in Paragon. Then here we use Big Bad Voodoo with Slam Dance, a really nice buff in general. Then Gargantuan, Wrathful Protector. This is the strongest Gargantuan rune, even though we use physical damage, this is still the strongest Gargantuan rune. Then, here is something weird I guess. We use Summon Zombie Dogs with Burning Dogs. Taking Burning Dogs actually changes the entire dog's damage from physical to fire, but still we take Burning, because the only thing the build kind of lacks a little bit is AoE damage. And if you use Lifelink or Leeching Beasts to keep your doggy physical, then you're going to lose that AoE damage. But it is an option. You could also use Lifelink or Leeching Beast if you want to go more tanky. Then we have Spirit Walk Jaunt. This is just a no-brainer for a Witch Doctor these days. You always take this. Then Fetish Sycophants. This is the thing that makes our build work. That's the whole reason we use the Plague of Toads, because it summons Fetish Sycophants. Another thing on Torment 6, these guys are really squishy, so keep that in mind when I make some choices in my gear and everything. It's an important fact to know that these guys die fast. You also summon them fast, but they also die fast. Okay, then Grave Injustice. It reduces your cooldowns by so much. It's a really amazing thing to have. Then Midnight Feast, because we use the Tall Man's Finger, so we have a big dog. And we also use Gargantuan, so we actually get quite some benefit from Midnight Feast. If you do not use the big dog, so if you do not have Tall Man's Finger, then drop Midnight Feast and take Gruesome Feast instead. Then Pierce the Veil. I've never ever ran out of mana on this build. It's close to impossible to run out of mana, so Pierce the Veil is a really obvious option here. Okay, so let's do a quick demonstration. Let's randomly kill Magda. I think there's always an elite there. Yeah, pretty sure there's always an elite on the way to Magda, so... You see, I start without fetishes, because this build summons them by attacking. The more monsters there are, the easier you can actually summon them. Nope, as an elite already. Didn't really have time to summon any fetishes yet, but yeah, shouldn't matter that much. As you can see, the crowd control from Adling Toads, anything with like the little circle above their head is being crowd controlled. It's really amazing. Kinda doing this place because I feel like Act 1 is easier in general, so just running in Act 2 a bit. Well, I guess these monsters aren't that difficult either. But yeah, it has to be a short demonstration. Okay. So as you can see, they really are confused and they're either piranadoed or confused. It's really amazing the crowd control this build offers. And crowd control is also important to keep these fetishes alive. It's really... It's actually really important to crowd control. If you use explosive toads, you will actually lose damage because stuff will be constantly hitting your fetishes. Your fetishes will die because of that. And you'll actually deal less damage than when using Adling Toads because of that. So let's quickly kill Magda now. For Magda, just pop some cooldowns. For any boss, you kind of do this. Yeah, there's a lot of ad summoned here, so that's also why I took Magda, to like try and give a clear view of what a boss fight is. In a Rift, a boss fight is usually not a Rift Guardian that's completely separate, no other mobs at all. Because a lot of people, when they show the pet guide, will show you a boss that's completely separated. And pets always blow up separated targets, they always do. So Rift Guardians also go down really fast with this build on Torment 6. Okay, so let's get back to town and talk quickly about the Paragon points and the gear. Okay, the Paragon points, movement until you're capped, the cap is 25%, then dump everything into intelligence. In the offense tab, first attack speed, then crit damage, then crit chance. The reason I say first attack speed is because that scales really well with the Rhen'ho Flare. You summon fetishes faster, you also crowd control more toads is more crowd control procs, and attack speed actually increases the damage of your pets. Not just the attack speed of your pets, it actually doesn't increase the attack speed of your pets, it increases their damage. That's something really important to keep in mind, and a mechanic that a lot of people don't seem to know. Then in defense, start with either all resist or armor, just put in 1 point, see whichever gives you the most toughness, and then I take life as a third one. The reason I kinda don't like prioritizing life at first is because getting life gives you toughness, yes, but you also need to heal back more. And a really good side of this build is that you actually have really nice healing. So by getting mitigation over extra life, you benefit much more from this healing. In utility, you can either start with area damage or life on hit. I actually prefer starting with life on hit because area damage only benefits your Plague of Toads and your Piranado. So, and these spells don't really do the most of our damage at all. They are decent to help with AoEing mobs. When you have really big packs, you'll actually see them doing some nice AoE damage, but they aren't that great. So either start with life on hit or area damage. And then Gold Find as a third one. Resource cost reduction is never needed, it is nothing. So you're even better off with Gold Find. Okay, then for the gear. I would say, well, for this exact build, Mask of Jiram is needed, a Tall Man's Finger is needed, and Rhen'ho Flare is needed. But let me quickly show you what you need to do if you do not have these items. So if you do not have a Rhen'ho Flare, with any other weapon, you just go to Reign of Toads. This instead. This also spams fetishes really nicely. And if you do not have a Tall Man's Finger, you go change your dog, and you change to Soul Harvest Vengeful Spirit, which is a nice AoE damage nuke, which also buffs your intelligence. And you change Midnight Feast to Gruesome Feast. Running Midnight Feast only for the Gargantuan is kind of wasted. But yeah, since we are not using that, since we are using the Rhen'ho TMF version, I'll just change to the right stuff. Where's my Midnight Feast? I'm blind. Okay. So Midnight Feast. And where is my doggies? And summon zombie dogs, burning dogs. Okay, so we do use these items. Tall Man's Finger to get like one big dog that does much more damage than all the small dogs added up. If you do use Leeching Beast, it actually leeches as if it were multiple dogs, so keep that in mind. The big dog is not worse than the small dogs at leeching life for you. Then the Rhen'ho. The Rhen'ho is really amazing for this build. I actually have a Star Metal Kukri, and I still decided to go Rhen'ho after testing everything out. And trust me, I tested these for hours and hours, because everybody's always telling me, oh, Star Metal is the best weapon. So I tested them for hours and hours and days actually, and I actually ended up going with Rhen'ho. Star Metal is great when all is going well, when you have easy monsters to kill, then Star Metal is great. But as soon as stuff is killing your fetishes, everything's dying, you have those charging angels, you have Mallet Lords, then really the Rhen'ho is much better. And you want to be strong at the moments where it's the hardest, not at the moments where it's easy. Then another really strong item for this build is Tasker and Theo. These are the best gloves for the build. There's no better gloves possible. Then I also really like use. Well, yeah, this is Mask of Jiram. This is the first item you gamble for when playing a Pet Witch Doctor, always. Then the Oakhilt set is a really strong set in general. It's also the Bracers is also the only place where physical skill damage is really mandatory. The reason why I don't actually get physical on any other pieces is because of two reasons. Only our fetishes deal physical. Okay, they are most of our damage, but still, hear me out. Only the fetishes are physical. The dog and the gargantuan we use are fire. The two skills we actually cast ourselves are poison. And on top of that, physical actually scales additive with Mask of Joram. For those who don't really know exactly what that means, you can basically simplify it by saying that physical only counts for half the amount. And only on one of our pets. So because of that, physical is actually not as important as many people want you to believe. I feel like the only place where you really need to get it is on your braces. Because braces can't really roll anything else anyway. You get physical, int, vitality, crit chance, and that's it really. When it comes to offensive stats and actually useful stats. So yeah, as you can see, I actually didn't go for physical on my amulet. I also don't use a physical Stone of Jordan, but a physical Stone of Jordan is honestly the second best option after a Tall Man's Finger anyway. Then Harrington Waistguard. The reason why I always take Harrington over Witching Hour is because they both give a damage buff. One is situational, one is more consistent, but the Harrington uses a secondary to give you this damage buff, while the Witching Hour actually uses 2 primaries to give you this. So the Harrington Waistguard gives you 2 free primaries on top of the fact that it gives a damage increase. Then for the pants, I use the canes for 8% attack speed. Attack speed is pretty nice with the Rhen'ho. But keep in mind, if you use a Ring of Royal Grandeur, then it's better to use Blackthorns. Because the 3 set of canes doesn't make you stronger at all, but the 3 set of Blackthorns is pretty amazing. Other options for the legs and boots are, and a really viable option also, is using Jade Harvester or Helltooth for 500 intellect. Like, Kane isn't really that much better than 500 intellect. I would rate them about equal, I'd say. With 8% attack speed being slightly better if you're at really high intellect levels. Okay, and also the offhand, Sting of the Deep, increases gold and health pickup range by 20 yards. This actually increases your Grave Injustice range. And the base range is 20 yards. Sting of the Deep increases it to 40 yards. 20 yards is really small. You'd be amazed at how small 20 yards actually is. So getting it to 40 yards will greatly increase your cooldown reduction. About cooldown reduction, I get a cooldown reduction gem in the helm and 1 roll on the shoulders. Don't get it anywhere else, just the helm and the shoulders. The reason for this is that it really helps a lot to survive. You cast Piranado more, you crowd control more, you cast Spirit Walk more, and your Gargantuan and your Big Bad Voodoo is up more. So it really benefits you more than you think. A little cooldown reduction goes a long way. And then there's also the Unity. The reason I use Unity is because I play solo only, and there's a little trick in solo you can do. You can have Unity on yourself, Unity on your follower, so then you share damage. And you also use the item that makes your follower not take any damage. So you share damage with him, but then he doesn't even take any damage. So that's really amazing. Since we're on the topic of gearing, let's actually quickly go over Templar gear. Because that's something people often skip, and I think it's really important. Bulkato's Wedding Band does percentage-based damage. When I go to the Skeleton King and let my Templar fight him, he's actually doing 20 million damage per second at first. 20 million. With this Bulkato's effect. I'm not even kidding you. Since the Bulkatos is really doing all the damage on elites and bosses, we don't really need damage anywhere else. So everything else is just to boost Bulkatos and to give us some crowd control and everything. So the Azeroth is here to freeze enemies. He can actually freeze Rift Guardians, freeze Skeleton King, whatever, which really helps to keep your fetishes alive, because there's a few Rift Guardians that almost one-shot fetishes. I also like to get attack speed on everything, just because it makes you proc on hit effects more often. So attack speed on the ring here, attack speed on the amulet, attack speed on the weapon. Like, his damage isn't as important, the Bulkatos will deal with that. You just need to trigger your own hit effects. So trigger the freeze and trigger your S of Johan. S of Johan is a pull a bit like the monk pull. Ignore the intelligence on here, this used to be on my enchanters and I didn't change it yet. Now for the shield, your Temple is immune anyway, so the only thing you really want on the shield is 10% crit and strength. To at least boost the damage a little bit. I guess I should talk a little bit about why I use the dog instead of going for a physical Stone of Jordan, because a physical Stone of Jordan kind of boosts your damage by a lot, doesn't it? Well, the main reason here is that the zombie dog does not die. I've had some Rift Guardians, for example, Perendi, Infernal Maiden, even the one with Electrify, that kills your fetishes, and it's really hard to summon them back, and the Rift Guardian can take ages because of that. But by actually using Talman's Finger, I have something that deals constant damage. On top of that, I take Midnight Feast because I use Talman's, which also increases the Gargantuan. So I've actually been able to kill stuff like Perendi and everything really fast by just popping all my cooldowns, having my Zombie Dog and my Gargantuan help me out a lot. And then even though my fetishes die, I can still clear the Rift Guardian in a timely manner. So yeah, on top of that, if you want to see some Torment 6 Rift play, I do it a lot on my channel, my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Boxsalesman. So every day from 6:30 to 9:30 Central European time, so you can always check me out then. And I will be playing Torment 6 for sure. Always solo. I don't really play anything else than solo Torment 6, so you can check me out there. I hope this guide wasn't too long, because I always ramble on too much about my gear choices. Well, I'll leave it at that then. And bye.